Okay, let's do this.
Okay.
Okay, so for now, I'm going to let Carlin take it away. So Carlin, you're up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carlin Albee, and I've been an adjunct at Mesa College. I just figured out it's 40 years. That's scary. Anyway, this is our agenda. This is what was emailed to you, and hopefully all of you have it. It has all the links on it that we're going to be referring to. To start out with, I have to do the reminder. If you are at San Diego Community College District and you need flex credit, you need to sign in for the flex credit today. The one for the faculty, it's this flex number 11171. And we were able to get flex credit for the continuing ed people today, and that's 21466. You need to sign into those today, but you have, like a month or so to actually say you attended. If you're at another college district, you may be able to get flex credit through independent study or something like that, and give them a copy of this agenda to show all the topics we're covering. I've done the reminder. Now, one of the most important things for you to know about, and I just have to figure out where I put it. This one I'm have to enlarge it here. We've practiced yesterday. This is a sample paycheck, okay? There's a lot of questions that people have had in prior workshops, and the answers are here on your worksheet. For example, one of the easiest one is down here. It's your rate of pay. How much are you making? But the more important things are, number one, what retirement plan do you belong to? We've had a lot of people that said they don't know if they're even in retirement. Well, this one shows that this employee belongs to CalSTRs. Do you belong to a union? If you are, I belong to AFT Guild, and this is where my AFT Guild dues are being deducted. Now,
I don't see any paycheck. We don't see paycheck on the screen.
Oh, really? I'm screen saving. It says
if you want to stop sharing and then start again, that might be the way to get it to work.
Let's see, new share. Okay, and I appreciate you telling me that. Is it there now?
Looks great. Thanks, Carlin. Start over.
Okay. All right. So this is a sample paycheck that if this is the one from the San Diego Community College District, all of you get them one way or another. You have to go into PeopleSoft. Your rate of pay is right up here, for example, if anybody asks you how much you make. Over here on your deductions, we have had people tell us, I don't know if I belong to a retirement plan. If you do, there's money being deducted from your paycheck. In this case, it's CalSTRs. This is the employee share that's going in. Do you belong to a union? You're probably, if you do, you're probably having your union dues deducted. Here is AFT Guild's union dues being deducted. Now, the district contributes also to your retirement plan. Over here, we had the employee retirement. Over on this side is the district retirement. Now, this paycheck is from 2016. So this CalSTRs deduction for the employer has gone up quite a bit. They contribute quite a bit more. This also shows that this employee was covered by health insurance from the district. So that's what the type of thing that your paycheck can tell you. And there's one other number down here I want to show you. This is the sick leave, accumulated sick leave. Now, notice it's an ending balance. It shows year-to-date amount. When you do go to retire from CalSTRs, you can have this unused sick leave transferred to the CalSTRs so you get additional credit. It's going to be a really minor amount, but every little bit helps. Okay, so that is your paycheck and what you can see from your paycheck. The next thing I want to go to is your retirement plans. So let me unshare that. And I had them down on my, I didn't know I was going to share a screen like this. So excuse me while I fumble here. I'm missing it. It's chart from San Diego Community College District that shows about the retirement plan. Oh, this one. There we go. It looks different that way. No, that's not it. I apologize for this. I feel like I'm missing. Oh, this one doesn't look right at all. Oops, got to unshare. Sorry. New share. Anyway, what I was going to try to tell you here is under the retirement plans, San Diego Community College District has charts that they show where they are comparing STRs and Social Security. And I don't know, I apologize, I'm not that used to this. No. And I rehearsed. I really, truly apologize for this. File, sample. Okay, I'm going to go into our website. All right, this is the SADAFA website. Can everybody see this?
No, you have to start sharing again.
Okay. Did it come up now?
Nope.
No.
I can bring it up though.
Well, if you do, I can't bring it. I can't. Let me undo the share. Are we up now? There we go. Now we should be up, right? Okay.
Nope. We're not. But you just tell me what you want to go to, and I'll link to it.
Okay. Under our website, under resources, there will be a chart. Under the retirement and planning, click on that. And there was a chart that San Diego Community College District had created.
Which one is it, Carlin?
I don't know, because it got changed around since I looked at it last night.
What's it called?
It was Adjunct Retirement.
Is it the Excel spreadsheet with the
No.
2 columns?
No, it's one from the San Diego Community College District.
Is it the considering retiring or the 180 day rule?
You can try that one and see what happens.
Is this
No,
the one, Carlin?
No, that isn't it. Can we close all of these?
Yeah. I'll stop sharing. So,
Here it
Carlin,
is.
is it something you can just talk about without showing us the chart?
It's called the Adjunct Faculty Retirement Plans Options. And it is a document that San Diego Community College District produced. And it's basically a chart that says, what are the options for the adjuncts? And it talks about CalSTRs, which is the state teachers retirement system. And you can choose, for example, between defined benefit and cash balance. The defined benefit one is the one that most of us like and think is the best one, because you contribute into it and you will get a defined pension when you retire. It'll be based on a formula that they use. And the other one that they've been pushing people into is the cash balance one. And the cash balance one, you contribute far less money, and they'll usually try to tell you, oh, this is the best one because see, you'll have this much more money in your take-home pay. But the problem with the cash balance is when you go to retire, they will hand you what has been contributed as one single check and thank you, it's been nice having you here, go away. Whereas the defined benefit one is an actual traditional pension. The other thing that they talk about is the FBC 3121 retirement plan. To me, it's new, but Carol has said, no, it's been around for quite a while. And it's a plan that you go into. It's been invented by the school districts. It is not CalSTRs. It's instead of that. And some people say it's similar to Social Security, but I almost think somebody referred to it as a 401 type plan, but I don't know about that. Anyway, you're immediately vested with it and you can look onto your account and the whole work. Organization called Schools First is the administrator on it. Keep in mind that adjuncts do not pay into the Social Security system at all. And when you are, and if you are a member of CalPERS, which classified employees are, they do also pay into Social Security. So that's one of the biggest differences between us and them. All right, so let me close this, get back to, I gotta find our.
We had a question in the chat from Jack. It says, I've been getting both defined benefit and cash balance, I believe, because I teach more than 100% FTE. Is that correct?
That is a really good point, Jack, because one of our biggest problems with CalSTRs is as adjuncts, when everybody says, well, you have to vest at 5 years, that doesn't mean 5 calendar years. That means 5 earned years. So if I teach a 60% load, I only get credit for 60% of a year credit. The way you can get one full year, like a contract employee could, would be if you're teaching at more than one school. So the years that I taught at Grossmont, it was added to what I was teaching at Mesa. And it, like you said, Jack, it equals more than 1 year. That excess, because you can't earn or contribute more than 1 year, that excess above 1 year goes into the cash balance. So when I retired from STRS, whatever was over in that cash balance, I got as one check. And then meanwhile, my defined benefit section is what determined my pension.
Carlin, if I could interject something, there are two different things. There's a cash balance account, which is its own plan by itself. And then there's the supplemental account. And everyone, full-time or part-time, who works over 1 year's worth in a year, those funds go into their supplemental account. So you have a DB and a supplemental, but you wouldn't have a DB and a cash balance. So we don't want to confuse supplemental account, which is for everything over a year, with the cash balance. So we want to keep those separate.
And I appreciate the input, David, because things are always changing. There are some other plans. If you need to get information about your CalSTRs account, go into My CalSTRs, make a file for it. There's also some other plans like Apple and Pear that I honestly don't know anything about them. You'd be best to, again, find out how to get into those plans and get the information from them. One lady said that she was going to take what she had in Apple as a lump sum when, because she's now in CalSTRs defined benefit and wants to stay there.
Carlin, we had a couple other questions. Someone asked to back up a little bit and trying to figure out how the paycheck, and someone says it says FICA alternative plan. So the question is FICA alternative plan the other option to STRs, or is it a fancy name for Social Security?
I think the FICA alternative plan is that new 3121.
FICA is usually Medicare.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we'll see on the employee going up back to that paycheck, under taxes, there was federal withholding, and on mine it says federal MED/EE. That's Medicare withholding, because even though we're not under Social Security, we do pay into Medicare. And that new plan that I was just showing you, that's is it 3121? I think that's the one that they're referring to when they say an alternative to Social Security. But there's the information on the district website under benefits, HR, and then benefits. I'm trying to figure out, there you guys are. All right, so let me go back to share screen, and where'd my website? I had all of this planned out and it was working so well, and now I can't figure out why.
We had a couple other questions. Maybe David or Carlin can take them. Diane has a 401A 3121 and wants to know if she can switch to STRs. Do we have access to financial advisor or to offer guidance at no cost? Who do we go to for advice on this?
Well, you can go to the STRs office. They have an office in San Diego, right down by Costco in Mission Valley. Or you can go online. You can talk to if you have a financial advisor who's handling your 401, then they should be able to help you. But a lot of it depends on where you are in your career. If you're coming late into STRs, it's very expensive to buy service time. If you're young enough, then you just transfer to STRs, and you can.
Can you explain that idea of buying service time in a little more detail, David?
Those rules change a lot. It used to be you could easily buy, if you taught for 10 years when you weren't in STRs, if you had a lump of money, you could buy the STRs coverage for those 10 years that you were teaching, but we're not contributing. The only problem is when you buy it, you're paying your contribution, college's contribution, and any interest that might have been attached to it. So it's not cheap. However, if it gives you an extra year or two of service credit, then it might be worth it, because you would vest that much sooner and your retirement would be that much greater. And the pension from CalSTRs, that goes for your life. So you look at it, really could be a lot of money. So, but I would definitely encourage people to talk to a STRs counselor. You can make appointments to talk to them locally.
And they also would know whether you can take that money and put it into STRs. When David said you buying that time, let's say that there was 2 years you didn't belong to defined benefit. When you buy it, you're paying what would have been withheld plus all of the interest that would have accrued. And I was told by one person that did it, you also end up having to pay the employer contribution. That's
Right,
why
that's
it
nice.
becomes so prohibitive.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the idea that it's really important to make that decision early on in your career, whether to go with the lump sum or the defined benefits, because switching can be very expensive.
And then, and the other thing about that is, I have actually talked to a couple of people that they worked, they were teachers, they were contributing to CalSTRs, they got so burned out, frustrated, etc., that they just said, that's it, I'm pulling this money out, I'll use it as a down payment somewhere. Well, then 5-10 years later, they changed their mind and wanted to go back to teaching. They had to start from zero on their pension. So it's really important that you ever change your mind. Do not take that money out. Leave it there. Let it accrue interest. I don't care if it's your Apple. I don't care if it's CalSTRs. Just leave it there while you're not teaching. And then if you change your mind, you can come back. And if not, when you're ready to retire, it'll be there. So kind of out of sight, out of mind. All right, now I have an Excel sheet up here. And I said on share screen, can you see it?
We can see it. Adjuncts,
Yay!
CalSTRs, and Social Security.
All right. I'm a Excel person. That's why this is an Excel. This is comparing CalSTRs to Social Security. And the reason is because a lot of us paid into Social Security, either when working our way through college or, you know, during years when we had been laid off, whatever. And some people make a point of every summer getting regular jobs that are in industry, so they pay into Social Security. So this is comparing the two. CalSTRs, you have to had joined, and sometimes that means standing at the desk of the benefits person and saying, no, you will sign me up for this. This is my right, you know. Social Security, if you work for an employer that deducts your pay for Social Security, you're in it. Now, what are the minimum requirements? This is the blue one here. CalSTRs, you have to have 5 years of earned credit. And I emphasize that word earned. It's not 5 calendar years like private industry would be, because we don't get full-time credit for it. Jack does because he's paid extra, but like I only teach a 50 or 60% load. So each of those years I was only getting a 50 or 60% of a year credit. So sometimes we look at our statements under my CalSTRs and it seems like, oh no, I'll never get there. Well, you do eventually. It just takes a long time, but you have to have 5 years of earned credit. So keep an eye on that. Under Social Security, no one can collect Social Security unless they have 10 years or 40 quarters of Social Security. And again, go to my Social Security, set up in a pile there, it's down there below, and check to find out how much credit you have. When you hear some of these people and talking politically and oh, so-and-so's getting Social Security, they just came to this country and never did anything. Well, no, unless you pay into Social Security, you don't get it. Now, the other thing about that is look at yours and see how close you are, because you want to have that minimum of 10 years. And if you're close, like you have 8 or 9 years worth of Social Security credit, then think of when you have your off time, like summer school, or like me, I've been unemployed since COVID hit. That would be the time to get a Social Security type job and pay into it. How much will it be? There's retirements on that. First step, create a my CalSTRs account. And here's the website down here where it says where, calstrs.com. Set up a MySTRS account and find out what is in their record for you. Under Social Security, you go into the Social Security government and go into my account and create it so you can see what you have. What is your history with Social Security? You may have money there that you don't even realize that you paid into. I have some going back to when I was the student secretary for the music department at Grossmont College way back when. We won't say when, but when. So that's where you get that information. The earliest age you can retire under CalSTRs, well, technically you can do it at age 55, but you have to have 5 years service credit. Under Social Security, it may be 62. Now, keep in mind that if you take early retirement under any system, there's going to be a penalty. You're going to get far less money than if you wait till full retirement. CalSTRs, you're going to have to find out what they mean by full retirement and what you mean by it. Under Social Security, the last I heard it, if you were born between 43 and 54, if you reached the age of 66, you would get full retirement. Now, if you delay getting these, you're going to increase your benefits under both systems up to age 70, and then after that, it won't. Excuse me. Under Social Security, every year you put it off, you're going to get 8% more per year. That's more than you're getting into a savings account. So if you can put off collecting Social Security, can you work and receive benefits? Now, under CalSTRs, a lot of people will say, oh, the 180-day rule, you can't work. No, that isn't what it means. It means you can't work and collect the pension. So many of us that went ahead and retired, but we keep on teaching, we knew that in advance. So we notify CalSTRs and they just don't pay us our pension till the 180 days are gone. And by work, I mean keep on teaching. Other people get letters from CalSTRs, oh, you're working and you didn't tell us, so you owe us this much money. One teacher, he knew that was going to happen because I had told him that. So he just put it into a separate bank account. And when they said he got the letter from him, he wrote them a check. In my case, I just said, fine, I agree. And just let them suspend the payments until that 180 days was satisfied. So anyway, it's not a dollar amount. Adjuncts, we're limited after we retire to a 60% load, but we're limited to that anyway. And there's a dollar amount. When I wrote this, you could not make more than $42,000 in a year teaching and under CalSTRs. I've never made that much teaching as an adjunct, so it's not a problem. Under Social Security, you can work and receive benefits. It will affect you if you retired early, but once you reach that full retirement year of 66, you're fine. Now come the bad news. We have two things that affect us. Windfall elimination period is, or pension rather, I'm sorry, the windfall elimination provision, also called WEP. If you get pension like CalSTRs, where you did not pay into Social Security, there will be a penalty, and I'll show you a chart about that in a minute. Your CalSTRs will not be reduced. What it gets reduced is your Social Security earnings, and it's based on how many years of significant Social Security earnings you have had. That information is in your My Social Security and also in the SADAFA website. GPO is the other one that we run into, and this has to do with, let's say you're the adjunct, you've been paying into CalSTRs, you have a spouse that's working and collecting Social Security, and when they go to collect Social Security, they intend to put you down as spouse and get spousal benefits. That may be a problem. I've been told by two people, they were told point blank, you can't get it because your spouse worked. So you don't get the spousal benefits. There's a chart I'm going to show you in a minute that says, well, maybe you will get some of that. It's worth looking into, but be prepared. So again, CalSTRs itself is not affected by GPO, but it may have a problem with you collecting as a spouse. For Medicare, we pay into it. make sure you sign up for it at 65. Anybody turning 65 will get a statement from Social Security saying, hey, you're eligible for Medicare, sign up. Now, you're not signing up for the Medicare plan at that time. You're signing up for the system, so the system knows you exist. And so automatically make sure you sign into that, because later on, they're going to ask you for proof that you signed up for it when you were eligible. One more thing on this chart. We have been in meetings where we have actually had somebody say, announce, when I said we're going to have a workshop on retirement and Social Security, I had a contract person get up and say, well, all of you contract people, you don't need to go to that because you're a teacher, so you don't get Social Security. That's not true. You get Social Security if you paid into it and there was enough, your 10 years worth. So don't listen to that. There is a good possibility you may be able to only get 50% of what your Social Security would have been, or you might get 100%. So it is not because you're a teacher, it's based on other things. So I'm going to do a new share. Excuse me for coughing. Okay. This is in our website. This is a CalRETA, California Retired Teachers Association PowerPoint. You can find it by going to our website, sadafa.org, and you can go under a tab that says Adjunct Voice, and then page down on that. And when I'm done with my formal part of this presentation, I'll go to our website so you can see more about it. But under the Adjunct Voice, there's resources. And if you list on down, you'll see that there's records and slideshows from previous workshops we've been putting on. Arnie has been wonderful the way he gets that website updated. But I'm going to run you through this, and excuse me for the way I'm doing it, but this is the way I like to do my slideshows. CalRETA is one of the organizations that is really active on trying to eliminate the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. There's another group, CARA, California Alliance for Retired Americans. And what I sent you, the program, the agenda, it has their websites on them. On mine, it's the second page. Social Security Fairness Organization is another group that is fighting to get these eliminated. So let me go through these slides. Let me grab my notes. All right, so this talks about, this is what is on these slides. This tells you the history behind WEP, and it was mainly because they thought it was double dippers, because they thought we'd get huge amounts of pension and therefore we shouldn't get our Social Security. But that's not true. I know I compared notes with a full-timer. My pension is 20% of what his is per month because he's full-time. All right, so this is slide 4, who is affected by the WEP. This tells you more about what does it, but this is the one I want you to really look at. Whoops. 5, windfall elimination provision. The years of substantial earnings is based on my Social Security. There's a chart in there. We've got charts you can use both on our website. We also have a Facebook page, San Diego Adjunct Faculty, where I've put in the workshop sheets, because Social Security tells you how much they consider to be substantial earnings per year. And it changes. I mean, at one point, I think it was $1,600. Now it's quite a bit more. But you figure out how many of those years that you have worked count as substantial earnings. If you have 20 or less, you just have the bare minimum, it might reduce your pension $480. I'll get to that in a minute. If you've got over 30 years, you won't be affected by it. Nothing will be deducted from it. So this is the way to figure out the penalty. If you've got 20 years, now this says that it'll be reduced 40%. We had a Social Security speaker that said the maximum it will be reduced will be 50%. And this chart is showing how much you will keep. Okay, it's not what's going to be taken, it's going to be what you keep. So this implies 60%. So figure whatever you would have gotten on Social Security otherwise, if you have 20 or fewer years of substantial earnings, you may lose up to 60% of that. That's why it's so important that, shall we say, in your spare time when you're not teaching, or even if you're teaching and can work another job. I haven't been able to find other jobs at other schools on a regular basis like some of my my friends have. So my job was always working as an accountant for first full time and then down to 30 hours per week. So I kept paying into Social Security. And as you pay into it, you get more years credit. And that means you get to keep more of your Social Security. So that's something to keep in mind in your planning stage. Heaven knows adjuncts can't live on just one adjunct job. You need a second job. You might as well have one that pays into Social Security. Excuse me. Then if we go on down on this, now it talks about the government pension offset and what is involved in that. The states are interesting because not all of the states have retirement like CalSTRs. And I think it said there was 14 states involved. I apologize for this being small print, but you can look it up and read it yourself. And it has to do with the effects of the Social Security. Here's the impact of the GPO. It's under GPO, the amount is reduced by 2/3 of the amount of the pension provided by state teachers' retirement system. But it's only the public worker that's involved. If you have a survivor's benefit on pension, the spouse receives the full amount. So anyway, you have to look into this more yourself. And the Social Security website also explains it. These are two bills. Now this chart is from a few years ago, so I don't pay attention to those right now, except know that they're happening. These are what kind of bills they've tried to make. See this, now this one was introduced a year ago, HR 82. And one of the things they're working on is these co-sponsors. We've got some, like my House of Representatives congressman is Darrell Issa. He won't become a co-sponsor. He has his own agenda he's dealing with. But all of the four that are Democrats have all signed on to be co-sponsors. And the reason they're working on these co-sponsors is because if they get a magic number of them, then it will automatically be brought up for a vote. Nobody can bury it in a committee. 16. Okay, how you can help. There are several organizations that are working on trying to get these repealed. CalRita is the one that's, to me, the most active. They actually have emails that you send out twice a week. They call them call for action, and they're, whoops, I can't do that. Got to share and then unshare. They're actually asking you, hey, they've got this campaign where they select representatives and senators and have you email to them that week. And this is a sample message to use. So they're very proactive. Kara is also very proactive on it. They have a call for action they send out. And Social Security Fairness does. This slide under this presentation is all the different things you can do to help get this passed to eliminate WEP and GPO. And some of you are really young and you don't care. Don't listen to the thing about, oh, Social Security won't be around when you retire. I've been listening to that for over 30 years. It's still there and I'm enjoying it. This was printed, last year. So they were trying to get the full action on it. All right, so let me eliminate this one. And I want to get into our website. All right, can you see our website?
Yes.
All right. Now the resources, here's our home. This is about us. The Adjunct Voice is the one I told you that it's not working. Come on, here you go. This one is different things that we have done since we've been around. And resources was a workshop we put on in September. So this is some of the information about it. And here's the resources that what you need to know. This one had, it tells you who our speakers were. And that website on that pages that I just showed you came from here. So if you go into this, this is from that workshop. These were the people and the subjects that we were covering. Here's a video of the presentation, slideshow that Viva presented, CalSTRs, that's their homepage. The 3121 plan from the Office of Education, that was a presentation. Social Security was there. CalRita, they gave their page to do, and here's the planner for them. So that's a good source. Is just go on down and look through all these sources under the Adjunct Voice. Over here under resources, we've got several different things that we've come up with. How to find jobs, how to file grievances, not the subject today, but it's here. Salary advancement plans, unemployment insurance. We've got information we've gathered for that. This is all under resources and our retirement planning. I think Arnie's
We're going to plan to compile everything, all the information in this one retirement planning page. So it's just in the process of putting everything together here. So that'll probably be our one-stop link.
Yeah, because right now they repeat each other. And so I'm glad he's doing that. And we also invite you to join. If I can get it. There we go. This is how you can join SADAFA. And of course, we want you to join. So this is the form to fill out. And let's see, I think I'm ready for any questions. Is there anything I didn't cover, folks?
Yeah, please, if we didn't answer your question in the chat also, now's a great time. Unmute yourself or repeat the question. We've got a good 15 minutes for questions, specific details. If you want to go back to, and you weren't sure about the difference between a cash balance and a defined benefit, please feel free to ask all these questions. Now's a great time. Or if you have general advice, experiences that you've had that you want to share with the rest of us, that
Can we open it up and see the view of the whole group here?
It seems to me that it's better that I not retire and try to teach, because I have 67% assignment. And if I were to retire and then try to collect from CalSTRs, I would be reduced to only 60%.
No, that's not true.
Okay, that's what I understood. So please.
Okay. What is nice is I'm going to give you my story. I had gone to these workshops and enrollment was dropping. They were dropping classes. I was feeling very threatened and under a lot of stress. So because I'd gone to these workshops, I knew we could, as adjuncts, we could retire under CalSTRs and keep teaching. Okay. So I did that, and I chose to do that in December. Some people say, oh, always wait until the end of the school year. Well, December was fine for me. And I kept teaching. And the funny part is when I filled out the forms for the San Diego Community College District, I wrote on all of the retirement forms, we'll keep teaching, we'll keep teaching. Well, I just found out they've taken us seriously, and that's now a box that you can check that says you will keep teaching. So then for the spring, I was able to keep on teaching. I was afraid if I didn't, if I took off for the 180 days, I was afraid it would be out of sight, out of mind, that they wouldn't give me any more classes. So I wanted to just keep teaching without a break. So I didn't get my pension. However, did you notice on that check, the amount that was taken out for 1 month, it was almost $300. That wasn't taken out anymore once you retire. So immediately you get that much more in your paycheck. Then CalSTRs finally started sending me my retirement. I was getting my payment. And in my case, I also get Social Security. So the fact that you're teaching a 67%, I would wait and put off retirement as long as you can. I waited until I turned 70 because I wanted to maximize how much that pension would be. And that helped me a lot. I've had some other people that go ahead and do it. The limit on how much you can make, look at CalSTRs and find out what the amount is that they allow you to make when you're still teaching. It's not 42,000 anymore, it's gone up. And look at how much you make as a teacher. What's your gross earnings? Because it may not affect you. That rule may not affect you at all. If you're teaching at more than one school, they have actually advised us to figure out how much are you getting paid per hour at each of the schools, because it may be to your benefit to stop teaching at the lowest paid one, because when they go to figure out our retirement pension, they're going to look at our pay and convert it to what would be the full-time equivalent. So let's say you were working at one school that was paying you $35 an hour and another one that was paying you at $50 an hour. You want to drop the $35 one and work at the 50 if you can afford it, so that they will then use the 50 to figure out what your full-time equivalent would be. Did that answer your question, Elizabeth?
Yes, I think I did understand it correctly, that I'm 68. I should wait till I'm 70 to retire because I have a 67% load. So thank you so much for clarifying.
I don't know why they say 67% other than enjoy it, because you're getting it and we aren't. In fact, I'm only going to have 50%, no, well, somewhere down 50% this semester, and I haven't had any for 2 years.
I'm guessing because I started working in 1982.
Yeah, and go for it, because you're earning more credit that way.
Lenore has a question, but David, I was hoping, could you do a follow-up on that, on the decision on when to retire and keep teaching, or whether to keep teaching and collect higher retirement? Because I know you've done some of those calculations yourself.
Well, that was the question I had for myself. And I calculated that because I would be teaching one class, I wouldn't be teaching 67%, but I'm still not sure why Elizabeth is saying that she's going to lose the 67% assignment, because your assignment shouldn't change just because you retire. I'm not sure how that's connected. But in my case, retiring and teaching one class, the one class would not have increased my STRs by that much. It was like maybe $50 a month per year. Well, to give up $17,000 a year in retirement to make another 50 for $600 a year. It would take a long time at $600 a year to make up the $15,000 a year that I'm missing for those 1 or 2 or 3 years that I keep teaching. So I figured, take the STRs now, and I was going to keep teaching. Then I decided to retire, but it simply was not worth it unless you're teaching a huge load in all colleges so that you get a year's credit every time. If you're only teaching 1 or 2 classes, each year doesn't give you that much of an increase. So you sort of want to balance your regular income from 2 classes plus your STRs. Makes it a pretty nice package deal to live on when you're in your 60s.
I want to address Jack Flynn's question here in chat because I just went through this. Okay, Jack, at 65, you sign up for Medicare. That does not mean you are going on to Medicare. It just means they put you into the system. You get a card saying you were eligible for it. That's all it means. And yes, you should have done that. But yes, you still get Kaiser. I've had Kaiser up until September, when I told you I've been unemployed for 2.5 years, and the union got it so that we kept our benefits for 18 months. So I was under Kaiser for all of that time, even though I wasn't working. But there's a rule under Medicare that if you are covered by employer insurance, health insurance, like we are, then you don't collect Medicare. You don't go into Medicare. So it's a real terminology thing. The one where you sign in at 65 is just to get you into the system, and you get a card. And then I was unemployed. I lost my health insurance finally in September. That's when I talked to VIBA and I switched over to Medicare, but it's still Kaiser. And when you do change over to that, and that's one of the other previous workshops we put on, you want to contact the VIBA post 65 desk. They're the ones that handle it. But again, as long as you're covered by district healthcare, you don't go on to Medicare.
Yes, okay. My concern though is I thought that I didn't even have to, when I was 65, sign up for Medicare whatsoever because of the creditable coverage. So now I'm afraid that they're going to say, oh no, you were supposed to, even though you've had creditable coverage, you're going to get the penalty and pay these many dollars every month for the rest of your life. You know, so that's what I'm suddenly, because in fact, I have to switch to Medicare this semester because I'm about to lose my health coverage. Because I got my classes cut at Grossmont. I have nothing at Grossmont this semester for the first time since I started there.
I know that I'm an alumni of Grossmont. You should go ahead and get into Medicare and sign up, or at least see if you actually are in Medicare. That you'll know whether you've got an account or not. And I believe you get into Medicare by going into the Social Security website, and then from there go into Medicare. But yeah, go ahead and get it, because you're going to have it anyway. You can't collect Medicare. Like I could not collect it until I could prove that I had signed up for it and I had a Medicare card saying I was eligible for A and B, I think.
See, that's what scares me, hearing that, because I didn't sign up for, although I have all the paperwork from VIBA saying that I had creditable coverage, and I have all the things that we get with our not Social Security, but with our tax forms. I have those statements from Kaiser showing that I had coverage the entire year. So I can prove that I've not had to be on Medicare since I turned 65, but I didn't get that Medicare card or sign up for it because I didn't think I had to. So now I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. Just take care of it.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds easy, but get it over with, do it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it
again, and I see
week,
Russell Redmond has the same question. It's a terminology difference. Signing up for Medicare when you turn 65 just puts you into the system. It does not sign up for a plan. And any of us that have had insurance through the district where VIBA is the administrator, we strongly advise you go through their post 65 desk and see what you can have them do it. They'll tell you what you need to do. They'll have the paperwork and you stay on Kaiser that way. In fact, my plan, the only thing that's changed is I've had like 4 visits or something and I had to pay $15 copay one time. And the next time they didn't even charge me for that and they didn't charge me for my x-ray. So the system stays pretty much the same. And as soon as we switch over to David and I can get into my email, I see it, Elizabeth.
Let's take a couple more questions. Lenore had a question. She's had her hand up for a long time.
Okay, and what I was going to say is I will put in chat the email address for the post 65 desk at VIBA so you guys can contact them direct. All right, Leonore.
Thank you. It's not really a question, it's a comment. I'd like to encourage everyone present, if you're not already a member of SADAFA or CalRita, or particularly these organizations that are more active in trying to undo the injustice of the WEP and what is it, the other one, government offset provision. Our voices alone, us, my alums themselves, will get lost in space. We are not heard. As an organization, we have a much stronger chance of creating change. What is the membership? $40 a year? I mean, really, if you are not a member already, I strongly encourage you to become a member and make your voice be heard and try to have these things changed for the better. Thank you.
Sorry, I came in late. Member of what?
I think she was saying to join CalRita and to join SADAFA, to basically get
SADAFA.
involved in some of the advocacy. We've been trying to go and lobby. I know you were there, Donna. You came with us to lobby. Tell us about how that went.
Well, wow, we had Scott Peterson came, and then his representative, his helper, assistant, whatever, followed up with us for a little bit. Who we also met with, 2 other officials too. And it sounded promising, and he understood the problems. He understood what we were saying. He agreed that it wasn't fair. He agreed that maybe Congress was a little overzealous when they just made this sweeping WP and GPO, rules and regulations. But at the same time, and he said there was some legislation they were looking, they might be looking at it, but there was no definitive anything, and I haven't seen anything else.
That's a good point to bring up. Thank you, Donna, because there has been legislation to eliminate the weapon GPO for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And every year it gets blocked. And honestly, the Republicans don't want to vote. The fiscal conservatives like taking every penny they can. And the Democrats are going, no, these people need the money. And so it gets blocked. And obviously in Congress, everything's stopped these days. But that's the whole purpose of the weapon GPO, is to just take back any dollar they can possibly calculate.
And like I said, I do understand the background of it. I understand. I mean, you got CEOs that are getting, 10, 20, 30,000 a month in retirement benefits. But that's why I said it. I don't think they need to get rid of the whole thing, but they do need to have levels of if you're only getting $2,000 a month in or less or something of your retirement of a retirement benefits, then of course you should still get your Social Security. So I just think that just needs to be revamped. I don't know if it needs to be done away with, because I agree with the idea too that if you're getting $10,000 a month, you don't need Social Security.
Yeah. Well, a point is the WEP only applies to the first $960 of Social Security. So if you're a part-timer and your whole retirement from Social Security is only $600, it'll really mess you up. But in your Social Security, if you are making, as you said, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, the $400 reduction is not going to bother you. So there really should be some floor that underneath which it's too much of a pain to take $200, $300, $400 away from someone who's barely getting by.
Yes, yes.
So we're at the hour where we're going to try to switch over from Social Security and retirement and CalSTRs into other adjunct issues, and David Milroy is going to kind of take it over. But I did want to remind people to sort of some takeaways from the last hour is to please, if you're new as an adjunct and haven't been dealing with this, to please consider severely before going into one of those cash balance plans, and to consider how much more you're going to make eventually by going into CalSTRs. Now it's going to take you longer to get there, but in terms of retirement, eventually you'll get there, hopefully.
And I have
So it's one of those risks that you want to take that, but seriously consider doing CalSTRs and not taking that quick easy money for the cash balance. The other thing is please, now we know how bad we're being affected by this WEP and the GPO. So please get involved politically and advocate to change these policies, and through whatever organization you can. So we'll be asking for your help for lobbying in the future, but please kind of stay tuned to those requests for action alerts and such coming up. So given those takeaways, I wanted to try to move on. We'll put most of the resources here on our website, and specific questions to get really nitpicky that there's really, like, you kind of have to do your own research for this, but we'll try to give you at least those tools, put the tools to do the research on the website, and feel free. I know Carlin and David are available for questions every once in a while. But let me move on now to David, who's going to move to some of the other issues affecting adjunct faculty here. So go ahead, David, and take it away if you want.
Okay. Okay, so let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So can everyone see my screen?
Looks great.
Okay, so what I want to talk about today, we're looking into possible future legislation. We're looking into the problems of our everyday lives. And I guarantee all of us are experts on our everyday lives. What we need to do is figure out what we have in common, what we share, the issues we share, and to really understand some of the terms that we hear thrown around. And this is the adjunct condition, that's what we call it. So everyone hears, oh, pay equity, workload, job security, health benefits, solutions. Okay, so what are we talking about? So what I wanted to do today was have a sort of a discussion on the top 5 issues facing part-time faculty. And if, I would love to have people share stories about each one. We have an hour, so we could get through each one in about 10 minutes or so. And so if you have questions, I'll have already watched for hands, because at this point I can't see very much except my program. So let's go look at the adjunct condition. And the first one we're going to look at is equity, equal pay for equal work. You see it everywhere. Well, exactly what is equity? And why don't we have it? I don't know. There's something wrong. What is it? So as we know, full-time faculty are paid a year salary to teach about 15 units. And full-time salaries can reach 100,000 or much more. I've seen colleges where full-time faculty are making $200,000, $250,000, $280,000 a year, more than the president. And so you figure that something's going on. And the part-timers who are paid hourly were earning much less than half that amount. So if you look at the line, you have a full-timer with a 15-unit load, and they do 5 office hours and 5 or 10 hours of office community work, and their annual salary is 100,000, thereabout, possibly higher. Now then, hypothetically, if you take a part-timer and say, okay, now you're going to teach 15 units, which we can't do because of the 67% limit, but if we could, what would our annual salary look like? Well, 15 units at $80 an hour, $1,200 a week, $4,800 a month would be $48,000 for teaching. Okay, so that's 48% of the 100,000. If you think, okay, well, let's add in office hours because those are paid either a minimum wage, minimum low rate of maybe 30 to an hourly rate of 80. So that would add 6,000 or 16,000 to that amount, giving the part-time faculty member teaching 15 units an annual income of $54,000 to $64,000 a year for doing the exact same thing that their full-time counterpart is getting paid $100,000 for. And this is comparing a seasoned full-timer with a seasoned part-timer or a beginning part-timer. I mean, we want apples and apples and oranges. So to keep everything the same. So to me, it easily shows that the way we're being paid is just not equitable to how full-time faculty are being paid. Obviously, we're making 54 to 64 to 48% for even if we could do the exact same work. So when you look around, I remember when I got hired, I was so thrilled that they were giving me $28 an hour in 1988 to teach French. I was just so thrilled. I thought, what could be better than this? Well, had I known that the person next to me was making $75 or $80 an hour for what I was teaching for $25 an hour, I might have worked, see if I could change that. So that's pay equity. And there are around the state, there are different, this is all bargained. Obviously, this is salary. So there are other colleges who have found ways around this. And one of them is the Peralta Community College. They have a part-time equity model, which they just bargained last year, I believe. And it really seems to work. The adjunct to full-time salaries are broken down into an hourly rate. All right. So the part-time, full-time faculty are paid at the same hourly rate on the same step and column structure. So you have the same levels relative to the work they do. A full-time teaching load is 15 units. And with regard to teaching and prep, this represents 30 hours of a 40-hour full-time work week. For every unit a part-time faculty member teaches, they are paid at the exact same rate as the full-time faculty member. So if you have a 3-unit class and the full-time faculty member makes $7,000 to teach that class, then that 3 units is paid at $7,000 for the part-timer. Okay, let's look at an example of how this would work. So a full-timer at Peralta with a 40-hour load at $72 and some a week is making about $2,800 per week, $11,500 per month, and $103,867 per year. So that's a full-time, and that right in with the numbers previously presented. Instruction and office hours would only, without the other things, would be 35 hours, and that would come out to $90,000 a year for instruction only. So we're not counting anything else. So now let's look at the unit rate. The part-timer in the same salary schedule would be paid for 7 hours, 3 instructional, 3 prep hours, and 1 office hours for each 3-unit class. Because currently in most colleges, you teach a 3-unit class, you're paid for 3 hours. 3 hours versus 7 hours. And that's where the root of the inequality comes from. So then you have a 3-unit class paid at $504 a week, $2,000 per month, and about $8,000 a semester. A 60% load would therefore be 3 of these. So that would be 16 weeks, 4.5 months. You'd be making $27,000 per semester teaching 3 3-unit classes. Or 60% load. So 2 semesters like this would make a yearly pay for a part-timer $54,530, which is 60% of the full-timer salary. And that's for teaching a 60% load. So you're earning 60% of that salary for a 60% load. And that is a heck of a lot better than anywhere else in the state. Are there any questions about these two?
I have a question, but I don't know if it applies to this particular model. You're looking at this, but don't, aren't people paid also with according to the number of units that additional units they have beyond their degrees, their masters or what have you, for additional units up to 105 for our district. So I'm just wondering, how does that factor in, because everybody's not paid at the same hourly rate?
Well, absolutely. That's why in the first, in which line? Here we are. In the second paragraph, if part-timers at the same place on the salary schedule, column and step. The columns are the years of service, and this columns are the number of degrees, and the steps are the number of years. Okay, so you're still going to have a salary schedule for beginning full-time or beginning part-time, but when you calculate where you're being paid, it's going to come out to be the same whether you're full-time or part-time, whether you're at the beginning of the salary schedule or at the top of the salary schedule. Those numbers will change, but the calculation will be on 7 hours per 3-unit class as opposed to 3 hours per 3-unit class. So you can see that.
And that's under this particular model, right?
Well, all colleges have salary schedules.
Right.
All you're doing here is recalculating how you're going to use those numbers.
Okay. Okay, that's a little confusing to me. Maybe I'm just a little bit slow, because I'm thinking if I'm using your schedule, I'm saying that I teach 3-unit courses at the rate that my hourly rate. I'm looking up, say, oh, really? Just because it doesn't, when I look at those numbers, that it really still does not compute.
Well, if you take your hourly rate for a 3-unit class times 7 versus times 3, I think the computation will be
right. If I'm gonna be paid for those 7 hours, and I agree with you with that. But as we stand right now, our current situation is hour to hour. It's not. We don't have the additional 7 hours.
Absolutely, we do not have the Peralta model anywhere in San Diego County. It's only at Peralta, which is up near San Francisco.
Right.
So
right.
But we do know it exists. We do know we can look at it and follow it.
Yeah, we're always talking about equity, right?
Well, exactly. People say, well, we want equity. And it's really good to have a plan and a formula for how you're going to achieve it.
Exactly.
And the Peralta model comes up with it.
Yes.
Then at the bottom, I said, additional compensation for committee work and health benefits will increase total equity. Because if a part-timer has equity for instruction and office hours, but if they're on a committee, they're not paid, or they're paid much less, or they don't have health benefits, then that sort of reduces the equity, because you're saying, well, how come that person gets full insurance and I don't? And why does that person get paid for committees, but I don't?
Right.
That's true. However, this model is only 96% perfect. Okay, so there's a little improvement, but we are so far from this.
Yes.
I calculated when I retired, if I taught a full-time load, I would make $42,000 a year compared to my full-time same level faculty who'd be making well over 100,000. And fortunately, math is pretty easy when you're comparing 42 to 100. It's kind of 42%. So it's really easy to see that you are not anywhere close to this.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
So now we know what to ask for. Let me see. I think.
Has that model ever been shared with the union, David?
Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to show you. And just a sec. Stop sharing. Go to there and go here. There we are. Can everyone see this?
No, we're not seeing it, but I can definitely answer your question, Donna. I know that Jim Mailer has sponsored an event for adjunct faculty that included the promoter of the Peralta model, and he's well aware of this as a model.
There. Okay. You can see this. Right? Okay. So
Yes.
this is how Peralta won.
Yes.
This is in the CFT journal magazine, and they're quite aware of this. San Mateo Federation campaign makes big strides toward parity. So there's a whole article about it, and it tells exactly who did it, how they won it, and how it works. So
I have a question.
yes,
And Arnie, you had, I'll show my face for the moment. And so, Arnie, you had also mentioned what Jim knows. My question is that when this has been put forth, it's interesting for people to know, but then the question is what actions are taking effect, and who is our biggest resistors that resist this, even considering this particular model. I think that helps us to understand, some things if that information is available.
I think, I mean, a quick summary is I think it's a zero-sum game in the sense that the money that we're losing is money that's going to tenure track faculty. And so somebody is gaining from our exploitation. And as our union needs to decide who does it want to represent, and it has to make that decision between chairs who are there every year, have a lot of power, make a lot of decisions, are consistent members of the union, and adjuncts who are, maybe teach a class or running around between a couple different districts, or not very involved in their union, may not be teaching in a couple years. And so the union needs to make a decision about who it wants to promote, chairs or adjuncts or tenure track
Right.
faculty or adjuncts.
Right.
And it sort of makes a calculated decision about, these are the interests that we want to serve, and we're going to promote these interests. And it's some people win and some people lose, because that's the zero-sum game. There's a limited number of pot of money.
Just one additional piece there, and I'll back off. Is just, I just wonder what the percentage of contract faculty that transferred over from an adjunct faculty, and I just wonder, how that factors into particular mindsets of people who may be resisting this process, because you see more and more encroachment from contract folks. Oftentimes, for me, I'll just put it that way, in my department, that are taking on more and more hours that takes away from adjuncts opportunities. So it's their extra is part of our survival, is what I'm
if I could say that, that's one of the next issues we're going to be covering. So we keep that question in your head, and we'll be covering that in just a moment. Okay, Donna, you had a question.
Not so much a question, as kind of a statement. I
Yes.
noticed that I think that we can't just blame the well, I don't know how to take that off now. The part of it is the union and their decision, who their priorities are going to be. But honestly, part of this is the apathy of adjuncts too. We work in some of us work on different campuses. And yes, like the one guy said, he worked at 3 campuses to teach 7 classes to take care of his family. But the other idea is that adjuncts are waiting to be faculty, and they're waiting and waiting to be faculty, and to be contracts rather. And they think that this is just a stopping off point, a lot of them. And so they don't feel the need to fight for their rights as an adjunct, because what do I care? I'm going to be a contract someday. But some of us, I know myself, Kahalifa, hello, we've been adjuncts for a long time. Mine's by choice. I believe Kahalifa's by choice. We've never wanted to be contracts. So our fight is ongoing. It's here to stay. And I think that a lot of, especially the adjuncts that are here, I see there's a lot of adjuncts here today. If you fight now, even while you're an adjunct, maybe you won't stay here, but at least you did something now for future adjuncts too. And if this is important to you now, then just do it for the future of adjuncts. Stay involved, stay relevant. When we send out information to send to the governor, when we ask you to send out letters, send those letters. Encourage your other faculty. I encourage all my contracts in my department to help me advocate for adjuncts. And they do, so I think this is also, again, I will repeat it, the apathy of adjuncts.
That's sadly true. In many groups, that's true. Helen, you had a question, comment? Helen?
Hi, I had to take the mic off. I realized I still had it on. So kind of part of what Donna just said, this idea that the adjuncts don't participate enough is used, and it's something I keep hearing repeated constantly. And while I do think that the adjuncts do have to take their take that and listen to it, and you do need to participate, I understand that, but it's also not a fair thing to say, and it's an excuse that is used by the unions not to represent their own adjuncts. Because, for instance, with a lab lecture split, most art professors can only work one studio class per campus, meaning it would take you three campuses just to get even anywhere near equal. What union do you belong to, and how do you participate? And every time, the first 3 times I approached the union, and this was years ago, and I do think Palomar's union is much more receptive to adjuncts now, but I was told it wasn't their problem, it was interdepartmental. And so, yeah, there is also this apathy on the part of the unions to support adjuncts. It is there. I mean, I think that they're working harder at it and they're trying to be better at it, but that is still really there. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, I think we need to move on to our next slide here, which is, let's see, right in the way. Let me point. Okay, is workload. All of us know about our assignments. We have a 20%, a 40%, a 60% assignment. And part-time faculty, when they were created, they were given a limit of 60% of a full-time load, or about three unit classes, or basically 1 5-unit class per district. And this resulted in the freeway flyer syndrome. I'm sure most of us have gone from campus A to campus B to campus C. I, for 1 year, taught at Southwestern, Grossmont, Mesa, and Miracosta, and it almost killed me. But you have to do what you have to do. So in 2007, CPFA, the California Part-Time Faculty Association, proposed legislation to increase this limit to 80%. This was in 2007. That bill was killed by union leaders, and we were forced to put it forth as 67%. This allowed part-timers to teach up to 2 5-unit classes per district. So in my case, as a foreign language teacher, I was no longer limited to teaching 1 French class per district, but I could teach 2. So I could be in 2 districts and have, a full-time load, as opposed to teaching in 4 districts or 3 or 4 districts. It also let colleges regularly assign full 60% loads without risking the mandated Peralta contract. Peralta contract, when they put the limit in, they said, if a part-timer teaches over this limit, whatever it is, for 3 consecutive semesters, you must give them a tenure position. And a lot of people around the state of California in the community college system have full-time jobs thanks to this Peralta contract rule, which drives districts crazy. So they said, we don't want people anywhere near this limit. So when the limit was 60%, they kept you far from that. Now, when we moved it to 67, they said, oh, now we give 60% because there's no way you're going to accidentally get over that. So the recent bill from CFT, AB 375, which had broad support and was to increase this limit to 80%, was passed by the legislature unanimously and then vetoed by the governor. Why? Because the chancellor's office falsely testified that the bill would immediately incur a liability for health insurance of $440 million. And that would calculate out to be about $1,000 per month for every part-timer in the community college system for health benefits. Well, which is not true, because we already have part-timers getting health benefits, and not all part-timers will be given 80% assignments overnight. So it was just this huge scare tactic, and it worked, and the governor vetoed it. It did, however, motivate him to add $200 million to his budget for next year, for medical expenses. There are 3 line items on the state budget for part-time office hours, pay equity, and benefits. The pay benefit line had $500,000 in it for the last many years. $500,000. He just put in $200 million. So that's a 4,000% increase. So hopefully we will be able to do a lot of good, and hopefully this money will allow districts to expand health benefits, to provide benefits to more people, and colleges that offer nothing will feel comfortable offering health benefits to their part-time faculty. And sadly, for the workload, new legislation will be required to increase the part-time load to 80%. So we have to find another author for this bill, since the author who did AB 375 is retiring, was Medina. He's going away. So we need to find another legislator who will understand the issues and work with us to get the 80% load taken care of. Comments, questions?
Okay, well, one of my first responses, and I apologize for taking up so much time, but
Not
my
at all.
question in your last statement there about finding someone else, perhaps you can let us know, if not at this moment, down the road here, how to make that happen. It sounds like it would be a priority for our existence, just based on what we see of the uncertainties in our own economic, processes across the country. So it may be personal, but it has long impacting situations, I should say. But so how can we address what you just mentioned to find a replacement for Mr. Medina, a legislative that would be sensitive to this? What would you suggest regarding that? Because to me, that's a priority. That sounds like it's very important.
The point that I've seen in visiting different legislators, Donna pointed out during a visit to, I think it was Scott Peters, that he understood and supported and felt bad and went, oh dear, that's too awful, as do most legislators. Because, I mean, when you tell them a horrible story, the human reaction is, oh, that's too bad. That's awful. Something should be done. However, going from something should be done to I'm going to do something about it is a huge leap.
Right. So do we need to change strategies? Is there something we need to do differently? Because what we've been talking about, no harm intended, everyone, is that, we have been talking about how we are so disproportionately treated over desperately for decades. So the question on the table, and I'm like Donna, I wasn't never looking for a full-time gig, but that has nothing to do with me without me supporting the sense of advocacy. So I'd like to know just a little bit. We get frustrated. I know I've worked with Arnie and Carol before, and it gets frustrating, keep beating your head against the wall. And I apologize for that, but your head gets sore after a while, and you get tired of turning all 4 of your cheeks, the one on your face and the other 2 someplace else, and so it just gets a little bit overwhelming. So I'd like to know how we can change a strategy to who may be warm to us. How can we make some of this happen? Like Donna said, not only for us, some of us, it may be too late to share this benefit, but there's going to be a continuation of adjuncts, and it just seems so quite political. So how can we be a little more political and a little more forceful in what we're trying to get done?
Good, absolutely perfect point. And AB 375 was a result of a resolution brought to the CFT conference 2-3 years ago, and where we were calling for CFT to sponsor this legislation, to go out and find somebody, because legislators listen real closely when a big union knocks on the door, as opposed to when 3 little part-timers walk in and go, help us. When a big union comes in and goes, hi, we want this, people pay attention. The difficulty is making sure that that's what the union wants to do. When we passed that resolution, there was a tremendous debate of whether this was a good thing. Fortunately, the UCAFT and the AFT K through 12 teachers obviously said, well, this is obviously what we should do. Because if you notice, K through 12 doesn't have a 67% limit. They only have full-time faculty. So they said, what's this limit? That's absurd. So we won the day, but it wasn't unanimous, but we won the day for that vote at the CFT conference. And they went ahead and wrote this bill for 80%, and it got well received. So hopefully we can go back to CFT. And now that the 200 million was put forth to take care of the health concerns that the governor had, hopefully the bill, and they have it written, so maybe with a few touch-ups if needed, they could re-present it with one of the many legislators they know, and hopefully we can get that taken care of. But I think our union is a good place to start, and SADAFA is a good place to start. So
I threw a link to FAC also in the chat, which is a really
Yeah.
good organization that does a really good job of uniting
Right.
full-time and part-time faculty
Yeah.
across the state
Yeah.
to legislate and advocate for issues. And they've done a pretty good job of pushing for part-time issues.
Yeah. I'm on
So
the
I'd
FAC
highly
part-time
advise
committee.
if you can
and-
kick down
and-
another $70 a year for membership dues,
Mhm.
joining them as well.
I'm on the FAC part-time committee, and that's one of the things we're obviously going to be looking at is getting this going. So let me move on from workload to job security. And all colleges provide some sort of assurance that they will have an assignment in the following semesters. The state required job security to be part of bargaining. And unfortunately, when you get down to the local, the great intentions of the legislature, when they get down to locally, they have no more control over it, and the locals and districts do exactly what they want. So while some colleges guarantee a load or specific numbers of classes, such reassurances are, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So they're required to. However, the reason being, for instance, I was at Miracosta and we bargained health insurance and incredible $100 an hour pay back in the 2000s. So we had this great contract we went through, but the district refused to give us any job security. And the semester after we signed that contract, after 14 years, I was told that I was no longer needed at the college for no particular reason. They didn't have to give you a reason. So job security is extremely important if you're going to enjoy the fruits of the contract that you just bargained. However, even though they are required to have this language, many colleges have developed rather weak language and fail to enforce the priority of assignment. The union does not enforce such language. It is wasted ink on the page of the contract, and part-timers are helpless. We've seen all over the state and locally, part-time faculty who lost their assignments and said, but wait a minute, I have POA, or I have right of assignment, or I have whatever it's called. Why do I not have a class? I'm going to complain, I'm going to file a grievance, and nothing happens. So the enforcement of all contract languages is the principal obligation of any union. And you want to make sure that you know what your rights are in the contract, because obviously a college can do horrible things, but if it's not in the contract, the union really has no grounds to stand on.
Are you saying that our contract with our union is toothless?
No, in the contract, it's whether it's enforced or not. If it is, it's got teeth. If it doesn't, if it's not enforced.
Does our union have a history of not enforcing it?
There have been several lawsuits in in San Diego district about people losing classes in spite of their job security.
Is part of the challenge here also that when they, if a full contractor, a contract person does overload and takes that extra overload, then is that part of the reason why we can be kind of locked out of a class, even though we may have a POA, because all of a lot of the full timers are taking up more of the the overload and such? Is that part of the
There are
the
various,
impact? Because that's a legal aspect as well.
there are multiple reasons why a class can be taken away. A class for a part-time faculty member, it can be canceled for canceled for low enrollment or lack of funding. Or also it's your class unless maybe someone, a full-timer loses a class. I remember I was at Miracosta and there was this horrible full-timer. People didn't want to take her class, so that class was canceled. And what happened? She came over and took my class, which was full. And the students went, no, we don't want to do this. Right. So that can happen. And that's just a legal obligation. The college says we need to pay you for 15 units and you lost one of your classes, so we need to give you a class. You could also say, I'll drop this class this semester and add another one next semester. There are other solutions than simply taking a class from someone.
Yeah. And I think the only reason I was just pointing that out, and I don't, I just wanted, like you were saying that, yeah, that makes sense about the scenario you gave. But I'm speaking of something different. I don't want it to be, it seems as though it's a negative thing, us against them. But I'm just saying, if they're already making the $100,000 you're talking about with your previous, and then you take another class that you don't really have to take, that's just extra money. Okay. That's an overload process. And I'm just saying, there's a whole different mindset that I'm speaking of here.
And here's our next slide. 10-year track overload. Okay, you knew we'd get there. Okay.
Sorry.
No, this is exactly, I mean, I think all of us have come up against this wall. Full-time faculty, are paid for their 15 units per semester. And it is far too common for full-time faculty to request and to be assigned additional classes which are paid at the part-time rate on top of their regular salary. It is not uncommon to see full-time faculty with overload assignments of 40, 60, 100, and up to 200%. So you've got someone teaching 300%. Now then, these are rare, and they're probably online classes, which you can do because you hit a button and the class is done, or whatever they're doing. The only limitation is possible contract language. So our contract might say overload is limited to such 140 or 120 or whatever. However, the best one is the sense a dean, good sense of a dean not to make such assignments in the interest of providing students with the best instruction possible. If you want to have a teacher paying attention to this class 100% versus a full-time faculty member with 10 sections and going, oh, okay, whatever, you're not going to be giving the same attention, the same interaction. And while there are contractual obligations which allow full-time faculty to take a part-timer's class, in the case where the full-timer's class is canceled for low enrollment, again, you don't have to take another class. You can say next semester I'll take 6 instead of 5, and then I can take 4 classes this semester. There are the other ways to do it. One of them, of course, is to take a class from a part-timer. Whether due to contractual obligations of the district or just full-time faculty, I would call it greed. When you have the biggest salary on the campus and you say, but I need another
That's the word. That's the
$40,000
word.
or $50,000 or $60,000. There you are. I mean, to me, that is just pretty much the biblical definition of greed. To take overloads, this loss of classes, which happens during the summer and winter intersessions, can be devastating to part-time faculty who also have rent and mortgages to pay and families to care for. I remember at Grossmont College in the 2000s, we put forth in the Senate a resolution asking if full-time faculty would consider possibly during this horrible economic crisis we were having, if they could limit or maybe not take overload, possibly so that we could all at least have something to do. And the reaction was aghast, floored, appalled. How dare you take the bread out of our mouths? These are our classes. Table this motion, don't ever talk about it again, and shame on you for even bringing this up, which was not exactly the response we were expecting from our colleagues who are all friendly and part of the faculty family.
David,
But-
if I can add something real quick,
Certainly.
the same issue was brought up with AFT Guild, and Jim Mailer will tell you, we sent out a survey to faculty asking them about overload, if they wanted to cut back on it, and 100% said, no, we want to keep it. Well, then you push the point a bit, and it turns out the survey was only sent to full-time contract faculty. Not one adjunct got that survey. So of course they passed it unanimously.
Well, I think the reason it was sent to full-time faculty is legally, if you have a right to something in a contract, only you can decide whether or not you will give up that right. A part-timer can't decide that a full-timer will give up something.
Yeah, but the language is
part-timers,
wrong.
full-time faculty could have, unanimously or a majority said, yes, for this 1 year or whatever time period, we will voluntarily back off of our contractual right to take overload classes, and we will not do it because they're not obliged to take them. They could step back.
But David, it was to me, based on what she was just identifying, it was also the way that it was put to that faculty. So to me, oftentimes it's language. It's not like we don't understand language. We understand how this game is played, and I just think that the way that the union put it to them, was very pointed and very purposeful to get the kind of a response that they got. So we got to be aware of the realities of this. I'm not giving them any quarter on this at all, because this is not new stuff, and many of them have been in our positions, and then just kind of changed up. So I just wanted to point that out to support where she was coming from that, because I really believe that the language that was presented to them was purposeful to get the kind of result they wanted.
Yeah.
If they wanted the entire union, part-time and full-time, that language could have been written differently.
Right.
It's called common sense.
Yeah.
Also,
Sorry
a
about
lack
that.
of democracy, because
yeah,
if
see,
you had us
yes,
vote, there
yes.
would be more part-timers than we'd vote. But
Absolutely.
it's a way of, we can't have democracy, otherwise we'd get everything we wanted.
Absolutely.
Well, true. Having a part-time voice in the union and any district in San Diego County is part of the work that SADAFA is working on. So there we are, full-time overload, which hopefully will go away at some point. The next issue I want to talk to about is healthcare, especially with the $200 million line item that the governor just added. Many districts offer no provisions for part-time faculty healthcare, even though all full-time faculty, administration, and other college employees enjoy full family coverage. So it's not as if health insurance is non-existent in these districts. It's just non-existent for the part-time faculty. This is a tremendous cost savings for the district, provides funding for higher salaries and better benefits for everyone, except part-timers. Okay, so when you wonder, well, why do they have 2/3 of their faculty part-time with no health benefits and paid low wages? Well, that's, if you look at the salaries of the people on the other side of the scale, that's how it's done. It's pretty basic math. Now, some colleges provide a shared premium for part-timers who can then buy into a plan based on their teaching load. A 40% load might give you 80% coverage of the premium, and then the part-timer would pay the 20% balance. So if you're looking at $1,000 premium, the college pays $800 and the part-timer would pay $200 a month. Well, it sounds like a lot, but if you are on your own out there looking for health coverage and you go to Kaiser just by yourself, not in a group, it's going to be quite expensive. So $200 a month would be a great deal to get Kaiser or something like comparable. And it is, well, the reason it was at 40% is because it's still easy to keep part-timers under 50%. But most part-timers have at least 40%. That's 2 classes. There's not many people who have 1 class for life in their primary college. However, there are a few also districts that offer full paid benefits for part-time employees, as we do have here in San Diego Community College District, at a 50% assignment. And while this is a great deal, it usually and quite often results in assignments being kept below 50% to save the district money. It's quite easy to keep someone at 40%. for 10 years or for their entire lives. So the 50% is good if you get to 50% or over. So, but the one where you buy into it makes almost everyone qualified to get into the plan versus just the few who got in the 50% load. So with the $200 million in the budget, hopefully they will be expanding part-time coverage. Some of us have heard about universal health or single payer health insurance, which would just sort of end the question, because it'd be like Medicare, everyone would be eligible for coverage. And then you could take your coverage like you have Medicare and you go to Kaiser and you get their Medicare plan. So Kaiser would still exist, except it would be paid by the single payer. This bill, this concept has been being worked on for decades. And the last bill, which failed in 2017, has yet to be replaced for a new bill, because this is not a small boulder to move. This is a very expensive proposition. And people get scared. It's funny, when we send legislation to Sacramento, they go, oh no, this will cost $1 million. No way will be passed. Well, healthcare is a multi-billion-dollar question. So if you can imagine that they balk at $1 million bills, what they're going to do with billion-dollar bills. So any healthcare questions? Some of us have healthcare, some don't.
Another thing that the full-time people get, they also get a death benefit. Because I had a friend who just signed a contract and she was boasting about they get, I think, $50,000. How come that's not negotiated for part-timers as well?
A death benefit from the district.
I think we get a death benefit. Sorry to jump in.
We have one from STRs. There's a
STRs
death benefit.
If you qualify for STRs, there is a death benefit.
It's about
because I know you have
$10,000.
to set your person that gets it.
Beneficiary, okay. Yes.
I don't know if you're not qualified in STRs, and if you have one of the cash balance plans. I don't know if that. I'm not sure if there's one in that.
No, it's only with the defined benefit. Which district has a $50,000 death benefit?
My friend, she just got on with City. She's part of the police force, and so last 2 years ago, she was just saying $50,000 death benefit.
Oh, that and it's with the police. That could be sounds like it's more related to being in the police force than being a district employee, because police it's a dangerous job. So obviously there's
they have a
risk
separate
there.
contract too. So totally separate from faculty.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we have all of these issues, and you say, what could we possibly do? There's one idea out there. There are many. We can fix each problem individually, or one of the ideas is, a better idea is the program for change. And the program for change is based on the Vancouver Community College model, which is in British Columbia, where they've replaced the two-tiered system we know with a structure where all faculty are treated equally. You are just faculty. Whether you have one class or 5 classes, you are faculty. And so there's pro rata pay, including all vacations and holidays. You have a prorated workload with class and non-class time included. So if you have a 40% assignment, you teach 40%, and you have 40% of the duties for committees and everything else. So you're doing the workload and being paid full equity for that load. You're getting 40% of a salary, full-time salary, or 60% or 80% or 100%. Seniority is based on your hire date. So you could be a part-timer with 20 years seniority, and a full-timer might have 1 year of seniority. So you would outrank that full-timer. There's no overload and no overtime allowed. If there's so much work they need more people to do it, they bring in more people or offer those classes to the people who need to grow their assignment. And tenure is granted to faculty after 6-month probation. So 6 months, good evaluations, you have tenure, right? And then you are set to expand your load. You have 2 classes, there's another one, you get 3. There's another one, you get 4. There's another one, you get 5. So no matter where you are making a full-time salary at whatever level your load is, and you constantly moving towards 100%. You can see there's, this is on the SADAFA website, the program for change.
I put it in the chat too.
Okay, here is the form which describes the one-chair model for faculty employment. And you can go through this and read all of the work status, job security, conversion. It's a bit more complicated than I wanted to get into, but the highlights is what I told you about. So let me, okay. So
Maybe we can take some questions because we've
yes,
got about
absolutely.
8 minutes
Absolutely.
left.
Yes.
So just open it up, unmute yourself,
There
please,
you are.
and jump in, ask questions. If you want to raise your
Yes.
hand too, that's great, but just
We-
shout it out also.
So is this going to be proposed to our union? That we go this route? And how does the process begin that we advocate for this?
Yeah.
Which this?
That Joe,
Oh, for the program for change at
Oh.
Vancouver Community College.
we
Okay.
need to speak up more because
Right.
one of the major proponents for this, Frank Costco from Vancouver, who was down in San Diego, and I tried to get him to speak at our union meeting, and Jim said no, he didn't want him to speak. So
Yeah.
this is sort of the problem is they know this model exists, but they don't really want us to talk about it. So we just need to talk about it and keep talking about it and keep telling them, hey, there's another way we can do this. It's possible. Things can be better. We don't have to keep this system of exploitation to keep going. There's other ways to do this, but they're addicted to this system, and it's going to be hard for us to get them to change. It's a long slog. So we just need to keep going to those union meetings, speaking up, writing emails, get off this meeting now and write Jim an email saying, hey, I heard about this Vancouver model. Can we do this? Keep pushing and keep asking and we're going to, keep having events to try to push for it. But they know it exists, and they've made calculated decisions to continue exploitation because that's the decision they've made.
We just need equitable leadership. That's what the bottom line is. But so you call a spade, and it seems like oftentimes we're just too damn scared to call a spade, and nothing's going to change unless we do. Like Joe, like Miss Hart was identifying. How do we advocate? Because that's what it really takes. And call things out, and maybe because it's a fight anyway. How long we've been fighting? How many decades? I mean, Arnie, since I've known you I've been in the city for 16 years or so myself, and it's nothing, it's been the same. It's been the same. So leadership, to me, it's about leadership, not just from what we have as adjuncts in our leadership. We have people who fight, put stuff on the line, and they get reprimanded and retaliated, I should say. But I'm talking about, the union leadership as such is not equitable from what I've seen. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. There's nothing they can do to me, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about stuff either. And the reason I'm not worried about it is this job kind of sucks in a lot of ways. Like we shouldn't worry too much about losing this job because we're all very qualified, intelligent people that can get jobs elsewhere outside of academia. And that's something really, really to remind yourself that you're not trapped here. They're lucky to have you. You're smart, you work hard, you care about your students, and they're really, really lucky to have you. And they should be paying you an equitable wage and treating you with respect. So they're lucky to have you. Keep, reminding yourself of that because it's true. They somehow convince you this sort of sense that you're lucky to be there, but no, it's the opposite. They're lucky to have us. So keep that in mind and speak out.
Develop strategies.
What about, is there a campaign where we the part-timers can withhold our membership fees since we represent 2/3 of the
it's tricky here, right? Because as soon as you quit the union you lose your voice. You can't vote anymore in the union.
Oh, okay.
So one thing I do recommend that people do is they withhold their PAC fees. If anyone's paying an extra PAC fee, the Political Action Committee is something they encourage us to donate money, like $2 or something. That I really encourage people not to give any money to the union's PAC because it's used to reinforce a lot of the same systems. And
it's used to lobby against us. They use it to lobby against us. We're paying them to lobby against us. That don't make no sense.
Yeah. So get rid of your PAC fee if you're paying that.
Okay.
But in terms of your union dues, it's a really tricky thing because as soon as you quit the union, you can't vote anymore.
Yeah,
so we
you're
lose our
right.
votes. And so I understand. I know a lot of adjuncts decide to quit the union, and now with Janice, the Janice decision made it really easy to do that, and I respect their decision for doing that. But personally, I don't recommend it because I know every time we lose another adjunct from the union, that's one less vote for the next time we have something coming around. So it's hard though, but they know that and they play it. They give us just enough to keep us in, but then not enough. It's a bad political system, and I wish I had a good answer on how, but basically just doing what we're doing, keep talking to each other, keep meeting, keep organizing. When you see the call to action, on some email list or something, take it seriously, try to get in there, send that email out, make that phone call, attend that meeting, join FAC, join, SADAFA, join those organizations, be a name on that list, and be ready to act when people ask for commitments.
There's one other very important thing to do, and that's vote. Because when they have had like the AFT has the contract vote out there or other things, it is pitiful, the low turnout, not just for adjuncts, but for full-timers. And there's more of us than there are of them. We could outvote them easily if people would vote, but they don't. They don't even vote for Senate members on our own campuses.
Elizabeth had your hand up.
Yeah, what is the motivation for our union not to represent our of the adjuncts if we're over 50% of the?
I think it goes back to what Donna was saying, is our apathy, in a sense, leads to the union not representing us. And then I was also making the point that they choose to represent chairs more than adjuncts because, in a sense, a chair is your boss. So the union has to represent either the boss or the worker. And in this sense, they're representing the chair. If they have the chair's council is a big meeting where all the chairs get together with Jim and they talk about stuff. And it's a round table, chairs round table. You'll see it on the Flex event. So Jim sits with all the chairs and they talk about all the issues they want to do. But those are the chairs that are making hiring decisions for us. They're deciding who gets a class and who doesn't. Yeah. So it's a weird situation to have a union represent the boss and the worker.
Yeah, it's a conflict of interest.
It is. Yeah. And in this case, our union chooses to more represent the chairs than it does the workers.
So what we can do is join that meeting with the chairs and Jim. Just go and sit in on that meeting.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Interesting, but.
Yeah. If I could share a quick anecdote. About 25 years ago, I was in a bargaining team with a local union, and they got a huge COLA, like 6%. And they said, what are we going to do with this? And someone said, you know what? We should give it all to part-time faculty because they're paid so little compared to the full-time faculty. There was an immediate round of laughter in the room from all the full-time faculty who thought that was the funniest thing ever. And then we went ahead and gave most of it to the full-time faculty. So you sort of see who's doing the bargaining, who's running the union. They are going to vote in their best interest. And if a crumb falls off the table, we might get it. So you just have to realize that the union is run by people. And if those people have their own best interests at heart, that's what you're going to get.
Well, we got to remind them that many of them were once part-timers as well. Another thing too, the communication is so bad for part-timers. A lot of them, they don't look at their email. So there's got to be a process for us to reengage, reunite the part-timers. Because I know myself, I have to search information. I try and tell mine. So a lot of my colleagues who are counselors were once part-timers. I have to remind them that.
I understand now why we are treated poorly, why they treat us poorly. I understand it now. And the reason is because they can.
Can. SADAFA was Joe Hart
Yeah,
organized for that purpose. There are 8,000 part-time faculty in San Diego County who need to have their voice in college, in district, in political conversations. I was interviewing candidates for a board of trustees last night. And when I said, what are you going to do about, you haven't done anything in 30 years about the horrible treatment part-time faculty, the response was, oh, we just don't have enough full-time jobs for everyone. What else can we do? And I went to myself, because I didn't have enough time. I said, just because you don't give someone a full-time job and they're still part-time, doesn't mean you have to treat them badly. Treat them as well as you treat all of your faculty at whatever load they're at. If you're at 60%, give them everything they should be getting with a 60% load, 60% of a salary and health benefits and everything.
yeah.
The full-time job is not the only thing a district can do to be nice to someone. They don't have to exploit 2/3 of their faculty.
So we're a couple of minutes over time. I'm more than welcome to hang out a little bit, but I just want to make sure that everybody, to remind everyone to please sign up for your Flex credit. I know Flex doesn't pay the bills, but we can make the argument eventually we should be paid for more of this professional development time. And
What's
then
the
please
Flex
just
number?
stay in tune. We'll try to send an email out to everybody. If you didn't put your email in the chat, you can do that now. We'll send it to you. And if you join SADAFA, we'll also send it to our SADAFA list also. So please just stay in touch. We're probably going to try to do one of these informational meetings every 2 months or so for the rest of the year, depending on how much time we have. We're all volunteer. We don't get paid for any of this. So
What
whenever
is
we
the
have
Flex
extra time, we try to do
information?
this kind of stuff.
The
But
Flex,
please stay in touch, though. And I just wanted to thank especially Carlin for setting up the special presentation on retirement, and David for all his wisdom. And I'm not sure, is she still here? I don't see her. Anyway, but a special thanks to the City College Professional Development for encouraging us to do this as part of the City College Flex Department. So just want to shout those thank you shout outs.
And also for the continuing education coordinator for setting it up so they could get credit. Make sure you guys utilize our SADAFA website. And we do have a Facebook page that has information, not nearly as good as the website, but I still have to put in a plug.
I was going to say, and when you get an email and it says SADAFA on it, please take a look because it's probably a really interesting message.
Very true. Very true.
So Arnie, can you tell it what was the Flex on information on this?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. And whoever finds it first, just throw it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Thank you for this time and everybody that attended. It was great information.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for
fantastic.
excellent questions and discussion.
Yeah. Oh, you bet.
We just need to do this 100 more times and we'll hit everybody.
Probably so. I've enjoyed this very much. I know when we were on campus, we had some interesting conversations as well. So I'm still here for the moment. Arnie, I'm like you. I don't know, man. I'm kind of considering where I'm at for the next after this semester.
Yeah, we're in it for the long haul, right? In terms of that, but we also need to look for real jobs. I keep telling that, look for a real job, because especially even if you don't take it, the fact that you've found another job that you feel like you're not trapped is really good for your self-esteem and for your willingness to then speak out and take action to better your job here. Because a lot of us feel like we can't speak out because we're afraid we're going to lose our job.
Yeah.
And that leads to this cycle of we continue this really kind of bad job scene because we're stuck here and we can't ask to get a better job. But so, keep looking for that real job. Now is a great time. The economy is actually growing in a lot of ways. If you look at instructional designer jobs, which all of you are technically instructional designers, you've been teaching, you've been designing courses for I don't know how many years. But if you look at instructional designer jobs, there's 10 a day, new ones, especially online too. So, something like that, don't feel like you're trapped in academia. Feel like you really want to be here and you're willing to sort of make this the best place possible for yourself and your students. I want to keep reminding people of that too, because we got to be in it for the long haul. We got to make this place better for a long time. And that's what retirement's all about too, is, you got to think long term, like what's going to happen, in 30 years when I have to retire, or
Another
I'm not
comment.
going to be able to retire. But, for the rest of us, it's think long term, play it out, play out the scenario.
Another thing about looking for another job is what do you teach and how are your students going to use that to get a job? Because like I worked as an accountant, so when I'm in my teaching an accounting class, I can say, you will see this on the job. You do need to know about this, and it helps.
Well, okay, everybody, I'm going to take off. I appreciate it again. I look forward to the next meeting, and maybe sometimes, Arnie, it's the frequency. Maybe I know we got a lot of stuff to do, but this is my first time with this many folks at one time and from different campuses, and I really have to say I enjoyed seeing all of the participants today. So to all of us, I'm just patting us all on the back as well, because this is certainly what we need in this time of uncertainty about where we're going as adjuncts. So you guys take care.
Thank you so much for being here. Yes, that was one of the unseen benefits of this pandemic, was that we discovered that a lot of us can get together online and really get a lot of work done.
Absolutely.
No pizza though. That's the problem.
No pizza.
All right, you guys take care.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
fellas.
Please go and see the site. Keep in touch. Email us directly if you have questions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Okay, I'm going to cut it. Any other questions? We'll send you an
Bye-bye.
email.
Arnie,
Bye.
are you
Bye-bye.
cutting it for all?
Yeah.
Okay.